Hi, and welcome to Mental Matters on Open Studio. My name is Frank Malaba, and today we are talking about obsessive-compulsive disorders. And in studio with me today, I have Andrew Rod and Carrie Hickman, who are going to be breaking it down for us. I'll start with you, Andrew. Could you describe to me what OCD is?
So, OCD is a set of obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors. I think it's still classified as an anxiety disorder. Essentially, one has repetitive, unwanted thoughts that become obsessive, and in order to deal with the anxiety that arises from that, one develops compulsive behaviors that feel out of your control. You're unable to not do them.
Okay. And Carrie, I understand yours is slightly different. It's OCPD.
Yeah.
Please break that down for me.
So I have an obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, which is slightly different to OCD. I don't have the obsessive-compulsive behaviors that disrupt my life as much. Mine is more, it's a set of rigid rules and perfectionism that I follow. So actually, when it was first kind of brought out by Freud, he actually referred to it as being anal retentive.
Okay.
And when I read that, I was like, right, that's, my friends all think I'm anal retentive. So so I don't do the counting or having to wash my hands or a lot of the behaviors that someone with OCD has. Mine are much more kind of lifestyle rules, which makes it much harder for me, because for me it's all normal things, which made it much harder to diagnose and even to seek treatment for.
How long did that process take for you?
I've only recently actually been diagnosed with OCPD. I was in a private psychiatric hospital because I had a bipolar episode. And through looking at that and the anxiety, my psychiatrist asked me to do a test, a questionnaire. And through that, we discovered that actually I have OCPD, which once I read up about it, made so much sense to me. The perfectionism, the black and white, the rigid rules, the having obsessive lists for everything. In my whole life is run by lists, and those kind of things started making a lot more sense to me.
Andrew, when did you discover that you had obsessive-compulsive disorder?
Well, I was diagnosed about 3 years ago, but I think, I've been experiencing it most of my life, since I was a child. I can remember as a child, whenever I spoke, I had to repeat the words I'd said in my head over and over and over and over. I remember my father telling me that I live by rules that no one else can understand. I was diagnosed with anxiety as a young child. And I think, part of the OCD was developing ways to cope with that anxiety. And about 4 years ago, I got into recovery for an eating disorder. And OCD and eating disorders are quite similar in that they both involve obsessive-compulsive behavior.
Do they necessarily go hand in hand, you think? Or
well, they do for me.
One without the other? Okay.
Yeah, they do for me.
Okay.
And I found that once I began to give up the behaviors involved with the eating disorders, I developed new compulsive behaviors, not related to food or my body, And at that point, it reached the point where it was affecting my daily life. And so I decided to look for help. And when I saw a psychiatrist, I was diagnosed with OCD.
Okay. And do they give medications for it, or is it behavioral change?
So medication is one part of it, yeah. I take medication daily. Therapy is another part, and as is behavioral change.
Okay. Please take me through, Carrie. You mentioned lists. Does that only apply to you, or do you feel it also applies to people around you? Do you find yourself wanting to get other people to be in the ranks with you and doing lists alongside? or does that work differently?
So I think it's one of the things that makes interpersonal relationships so hard for me is the set of rules that I have and this way of doing things exactly my way. It's not that I always expect other people to follow that in their own life, but if they're in my space with my things, then it needs to be followed. So a good example would be is that I have a structure in how my kitchen should be cleaned. You know, it's you wash the dishes, you dry the dishes, you pack the dishes away, you wipe the counters, any messes on the wall, you clean the sinks afterwards, you wipe everything down, pack everything away properly, and then put the cloth in bleach to clean it. And if I go to someone else's house, I don't have to follow those rules. They can have their kitchen or their things however they want. And it's amusing that so many people, they're like, oh, we don't know if we want you to come to our house because you're gonna take apart and
rearrange our house
and
for
I'm like,
us.
no, it's your house. When you come to my house, though, it causes me a lot of anxiety when those things aren't followed. So if you don't put the CD back where you found the CD, that causes anxiety for me. Whereas if I come to your house, it doesn't matter. And those lists run in my head, from lists to how I do things, to spreadsheets when I'm organizing things. So I cannot go through my day without having a to-do list and checking off things as I do. And while that's very normal for a lot of people in working circumstances, I cannot function without it. If I'm not ticking things off on it, then I haven't completed it properly. So where people can say, oh, I don't have time to do a to-do list today, I'm just going to get on with it, I have to do that as part of my day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you mentioned that something earlier about how these thoughts keep coming and they keep going. What has been a way for you to deal with that? Because we're sitting here right now having a conversation. What are the ways that you find help you to override that part of you in a setting like this where you're sitting with somebody else?
So there's a few ways actually. I think the problem comes in when you have these unwanted thoughts, and sometimes they can be images, sometimes they can be disturbing or violent. It's not that I would ever act out on it, but having the thought in my head is disturbing.
The stuff that you're working on. Could we come back and revisit this after the break? We're talking about obsessive-compulsive disorders, and we shall come back after this break to speak more about it. Welcome back to Mental Matters on Open Studio. Today I have Andrew and Carrie with me in studio, and we're talking about obsessive-compulsive disorders and also another one, which is the obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, which Carrie has just introduced me to. First time to hear about it today. Andrew, you were, just before we went on the break, talking about the images. Can you just let me in on that a little bit about when the images come and how you deal with that?
Sure. So I think when you have these disturbing thoughts or images in your head, my first instinct is to try to repress them. And in repressing them, I only create a cycle where I keep repressing them, they come back, I repress them. And it becomes more and more disturbing, and I develop more and more anxiety. So one way of dealing with that is mindful meditation, where one can learn to accept what's going on outside you and within you, and the thoughts, accept and experience the thoughts and the images, but not give them any weight.
Okay.
Just let them come and go.
That's quite a skill that you have to develop to get to that point. It couldn't have been easy, and I'm really honored that you're willing to share your journey with us in this way, and really, really amazing. I'd like to move into another part of this, which is the stigma from the outside and what people already do. I remember I saw a movie that had somebody that was OCD, and they were brushing their hands all the time and washing hands until they were bleeding. And that's an image when I heard the topic that we're going to talk about today and just started looking into it, that was the image that was in my head. But what I'm hearing today is a bit different. So there obviously is that stigma that's there. I'll start with you, Carrie. What are the stigmas that you've faced?
So I think with something like obsessive-compulsive disorders and the personality disorder, which is so unknown, it's not that I've experienced stigma as much as I've experienced the difficulties in interpersonal relationships. So, like I said, I have friends, and a lot of my friends have put a lot of hard work into trying to understand me, but I've had other friends who think I'm just too much work. You know, and a lot of it is I can't help that I get anxious about this or anxious about that. And so I do these things, and I have these lists and rules that I follow, and other people don't want to do that, and they don't want to understand it. And so it's not so much that there's a stigma against this unknown kind of thing that this personality disorder that I have, but more that it's the way of life that I live, which is the personality disorder part of it, that people don't understand, don't want to understand, and feel that it's too much hard work. So I've really struggled my whole life forming interpersonal relationships with people and having friends that stick around for any amount of time, which has made me quite mistrustful that anybody's going to stick around. So that's, for me, with an unknown diagnosis, is not the stigma as much as the once people have spent some time with me, they don't want to spend time with me anymore.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Andrew, what are the stigmas that you have faced, or that you feel other people that have OCD face?
So I don't know that I've experienced outright stigma. I have experienced lack of understanding. Even with family members, and I think that began when I was a child. As I said, I was diagnosed with anxiety, and that later led to depression. And I think a lot of the time I was told that I was attention-seeking, that I was selfish, that I should just get over it, that I should just be positive, And I think, a lot of what I've had to do is learn to unlearn that attitude, because that is what I was taught. And so a lot of my struggle was actually, if I can just get over this, then why can't I get out of bed in the morning? Why can't I stop washing my hands 20 times a day? Why can't I stop, when I leave the house, I have to go back 7 times to double check that the gate is locked.
Stove is off.
The stove is off, that sort of thing, yeah. So part of it has been, getting over that attitude and accepting this is an illness.
If you're at home and you're hearing a lot of what we're talking about, which is incredibly real and, tough things to process sometimes if you don't know what it is, and if it's making sense and you feel like you need to talk to somebody, there is a number on your screen that you can call, and you can speak to somebody. And if you know somebody that needs to watch this show, you can actually just find us online. If it does repeat, you can find us online on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is Mental Matters Courage, and there you can follow us and you can find out a bit more about it. And you can email us as well on Mental Matters Courage. So just on your screen now, the number is there. Call, talk to somebody, and also you can email us, and we will be able to guide you to spaces that you can find help in. Thank you so much. I'm starting to realize a lot that when people don't understand something that is so multifaceted it's easy for them to just put you in a box and just say, this person just doesn't like to have people around. And we can't invite you to our house because, we don't know if you're going to like it. Instead of them stepping into your world and starting to learn. And I think it's about time that we started, and because that in itself is stigma. I know you guys have said that you don't feel it's stigma. That in itself is either stigma from people that aren't understanding you properly, or stigma that becomes internalized because you think, oh, okay, there must be something wrong with me. And to just sit here and just listen to you guys speak is incredibly amazing. We shall be coming back and talking a bit more about the different obsessive-compulsive disorders, and we'll go into life hacks, and we'll talk as well about different ways and superpowers that people deal with this situation. Welcome back. You're with me, Frank Malaba, and you're on Mental Matters on Open Studio. Today we are talking about obsessive-compulsive disorders, and in studio with me I've got Andrew and Carrie, and we've really gone through a lot of aspects of what obsessive-compulsive disorder is and what it's not, and we've also gone into what obsessive-compulsive personality disorder is. I've learned quite a lot today. I hope you have learned too. I'd like to go into something a little different from what we've been talking about, and this is the life hacks that you guys have the life hacks and what you feel are your superpowers as a result of having this mental illness. What are your life hacks? How do you cope in all of it? Carrie?
So I think I'm going to look at the superpowers
Yes,
side
let's do
of it.
superpowers.
Because I think it's quite a phenomenal thing. The friends that I have that have taken the time to understand my behaviors and where they come from, we always have a laugh. If we go on holiday or something, they'll say, just put everything in the car, Carrie will pack it when we get there. because they know that because of my obsessive kind of getting everything and fitting it perfectly, I can fit 4 people's luggage into the boot and still have space to spare, or if they want something organized, they'll say, get Carrie to do it. So I believe that part of my superpower, if to call it that, is that because of the OCPD, I am exceptionally organized.
Okay.
Lists do come in handy, and having a spreadsheet, and so people will say, oh, what was that, or how do we organize that? And they'll say, oh, ask Carrie. She's got it on a spreadsheet or a list somewhere in her house, because of keeping everything and all of that. And I think it's definitely helped a lot with some of the other mental illnesses that I have, is being able to be super organized and put structure and that into place. And definitely the friends that I have all think it's my superpower. Because they'll just ask me to do that, the friends that understand.
I think it is a superpower, because while you were talking in my mind, I'm like, I feel like asking for a number and getting her to come and organize my apartment and my house and my life. I think it is a superpower. It's incredible.
Yeah. And it's relaxing for me. I like the order and the structure.
That's fantastic. See, that is indeed a superpower. Andrew, is it a life hack or a superpower?
So I'm not sure if this is really a superpower.
Okay.
But having OCD has taught me to be more careful of judging other people, to be more, to be aware that other people have their own internal worlds, and to be more accepting of their own journey, letting them have their own journey, It also has made me more detail-oriented, and, I can carry out tasks to the full.
I agree. There's a certain element, I think, that comes with certain mental illness that people don't understand. Like, for example, in your case, if you're in a situation at work where they know you're good at this stuff, they're not going to attach that to you having OCPD. It's Carrie can do it, and she's efficient, and I want her in my team, and I think how does that feel for you, knowing that this is like your secret weapon, but also at the same time the other side of that secret weapon is it's stuff that you deal with on a real level daily. Do other people know that this is your superpower and that it stems from having this other side of the coin?
I think at work I've been exceptionally lucky. I've had a very understanding company, and maybe it's because I was honest up front with the mental illnesses that I had. They're also, yes, they give it to Carrie to do, but they're also understanding on the opposite side when I say, okay, we're moving desks in the office, you can't spring it on me on the day that we're doing it.
Okay.
You have to let me, and so they've become aware of those kind of things as well because I'm open and honest about them. With regards to my friends, I definitely think that they think it's a superpower. Definitely the friends that I have built relationships with in honesty about the things that I struggle with and the illnesses that I have. Those that understand it, they are more than happy to use my superpower at their leisure.
That's fantastic. I mean, you're the sort of person that everybody wants in their team. If there's a task to be done and for things to be executed, and I think it's an incredible superpower to be able to tap into and to know that you have it in your quiver of other things that you can do well. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty more things that you do at work, and with this being in the forefront, it puts you in a different caliber of person in the workspace. Andrew, what are the other things that you feel that bring a positive impression on your life or in the lives of others that are around you, that you either work with or volunteer with or do other projects with?
A positive impression.
Well, I'm speaking in terms of not necessarily a superpower, but also like a different hack. I think you mentioned a bit about earlier about things that you do when you're in that space where stuff is going on. I think that in a way is a good hack. If there's anything else like that you do that somebody might benefit from.
Sure. So, as I said, mindfulness is one of those things. It's not actually a quick fix. OCD is chronic, so there is no, well, some people find that their symptoms are reduced or even might disappear for a while, but there is no cure as such. So mindfulness works best when you use it regularly, and I find if I do it regularly, then I look back over time and I can see that I've been less anxious, less obsessed, less
And
compulsive.
regular is daily or a few times a day?
Well, I try to do it daily, but I'm not always successful.
Because the day doesn't always come out laid out for you that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. And say, for example, I'm here and you'd like to give me a quick hack on one of the exercises that you would do. Would it be a breathing exercise or is it a walk? Okay.
So breathing and muscle relaxing, muscle tensing. So there's various ways of doing it, but one thing that I find helps me if I'm very anxious, then I begin with my toes and I clench them, then I clench toes and calf muscle, then I let go, then I tense toes, calf muscle, upper leg.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Carrie. We've been talking today about obsessive-compulsive disorders, and I've learned quite a bit today about what OCD stands for, what OCPD stands for, and the difference. And it's been wonderful being with you today. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Frank.
And that's it for me today.
Thank you.
Thanks.